Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MOTH News. This is the first show of 2026. Joining me remotely today, we have Oscar Verde and we have Al. I don't know where you guys are. You're in secret bunkers somewhere around the world. I'm broadcasting from the basement of a chipper in Mullingar in County Westmeath. So just in case anybody wants to bring in some letters for broadcast, any letters of complaints, you can find me in there. Just have to find out which chipper it is.
Are you cutting?
Hey, it's just small fry. Here, Al, how's your new year? How's Christmas? How you doing? Tell us everything.
I'm in a different place to you, Keith, but anyway, not to worry. Good.
You'll be hurrying from my lawyers. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I traveled a lot for a change. So actually, I went and hung out in Jeremy Clarkson's farm, which was
nice.
Fun. Yeah.
How's that going?
Diddley Squat Farm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Had a mess around. You know.
He's a very he lives life to the full, does Jeremy, doesn't he? Like he's a very vivacious character. Like he enjoys his life.
Yeah, I mean, like Top Gear was a stellar program when it was running, right? So you know,
huge.
Did you try the ketchup there?
Sorry?
Did you try the ketchup at Diddley Squat Farm or no?
The ketchup?
Yeah, it's like one of the only 100% British made ketchups in the UK.
I did try the ketchup actually, but I did not know that, and it was really good.
Yeah, 100% British made.
Wow, and I was very impressed. We went for seconds, so nice. I thought it was really good. Yeah, no, that could have been the whole Christmas buzz. We were there for the New Year, hung out in the Cotswold, but I thought it was lovely, and it was like lovely in kind of chilly weather, so everybody was kind of, wrapped up and cozy. What about you, Keith? What you do, man?
And Oscar? Went to Ireland for a few days. Got the ferry to Ireland. I presume you've gotten the ferry to Ireland, Al, at some point.
I have. Yeah. I was in Ireland myself. I came for Boxing Day into Ireland to see family.
Oh yeah,
Stephen's Day. Stephen's Day, they call it.
It's called Boxing Day because when the Brits get on it in the pubs, they end up boxing the heads off each other at the end of the day. And it's called St. Stephen's Day in Ireland because we all go to mass and don't drink.
That's lovely.
I did not know that.
So there's the ferry. I obviously got the ferry from in and around London all the way to somewhere in Kildare, and it's quite the trek now, but it was nice. Kind of had a bit of a snooze in the cabin on the way over, and then hit the road. It's about 6-7 hour drive through the night. Obviously, is best because there's very little traffic. But I mostly spent my time watching The Bear. Speaking of ketchup, they made their own ketchup, and one of the characters at one point says it's muck. There's no point in us making our own ketchup. So if anybody's looking for something to binge on, The Bear, I'm probably way behind on this, but The Bear is good. My recommendation. Oscar, what's your Christmas been like in your new year, and how's 2026 treating you so far?
26 is going well. I mean, New Year's was kind of very sad. I ended up sleeping on a couch that I couldn't really fit in my girlfriend's sister's house and didn't get a go on Mario Party. But yeah, it was an average New Year's.
You didn't get to have a go on Mario Party?
No, so all of them just started playing, like all of their friends. And then I was just like, hey, can I join? And they're like, we're going to sleep now. I was like, okay, cool. Nice guys.
Oscar.
I'm sure they're going to love you sitting up.
Have you been waiting?
I'm not salty at all. Don't worry.
How are you still with your girlfriend?
I'm still with the girlfriend, and she didn't get a go either. It was just her sister and her sister's mates.
That's terrible.
We were just sat there like 1:30 being like, so should we just go, or like, do you want to hang out with us? Like, we've driven for 5 hours to be here.
And you've been sitting on this. You'd be like, as soon as we do our first show of 2026, I am going to tell the world about my terrible New Year, and I'm going to call out my girlfriend's sister. You've been holding on to that, haven't you? And do you feel better now?
I feel so much better. Weight off my shoulders.
Did they not know you're famous and that you were going to out them? They might
I
have.
don't think I'm famous yet, Al. If this goes really well, I think I'll be famous eventually.
Do they not know you? Should not know you've got a platform.
No, it's fine.
Okay, right. Well, let's crack on with the show. We've got some serious issues to deal with today. We're starting with a story that brings all of a few things together that we've been talking about: accountability, power, and what we're doing with public money in Ireland. So we're going to bring all of those things together. Enterprise Ireland, Senoptica, which you spoke about last year, 2025, a few times, and what happens when state-backed startups hit trouble. So this story starts with a simple question. So what happens to public money once it enters the startup system? I mean, we don't know. Enterprise Ireland invests taxpayer money into early stage companies, high risk by design. But when things go wrong, transparency often disappears behind phrases like commercial sensitivity. This brings us on to the topic of Senoptica, an Irish food tech company now in examinership. Competing bids are on the table, founders could be wiped out, investors are positioning themselves, and yet there's been almost no public discussion of the state's original investment. So this isn't about one company's failing. It's about how Enterprise Ireland operates, how transparent it is, and whether the public ever really sees what happens to the money it puts at risk. It's our money it's gambling with. Oscar, you submitted a Freedom of Information request to Enterprise Ireland last year looking for clarity around exactly this. Where are you at now? It's been a little while, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I submitted the requests on the 14th of November, and under Irish law, I should have heard back within 20 working days, so around mid-December.
Yeah.
Instead, I got no acknowledgement, no decision, and no explanation. And so at that point, technically it counts as dismissal. So I sent them an email requesting an internal review of what exactly happened to the emails. And they said they didn't receive them due to an internal filing error, apparently, but they're going to look into it and investigate as to whether they've got some errors on their Google, on their forms or whatever. But basically just hiding from it again, so not being extremely transparent. And to give you kind of a general idea of what I was asking for, it's a list of companies that they've invested in that entered examinership over the past decade and what level that they actually were involved. And then secondly, a kind of a list of investment funds, syndicates, and intermediaries backed or supported by Enterprise Ireland, past and present. So who those people are, when the support began, and whether they are still active, how much public money was committed, and how these networks are structured. So in other words, as I'm always trying to do, as we're always trying to do here at MOTH, I'm trying to look for where the public money went, how it was deployed, and what happened afterwards. So I'm not looking about trade secrets or naming and shaming. I'm just trying to hold them accountable and see what happens.
So the transparency, they continued with their lack of transparency by losing your emails. Basically, they don't even know where the emails are. And this is definitely a bid. I would say, I'd imagine this looks like a bid for time. Like they're just trying to push this out until they figure out what they're going to do about this. And remember, folks, anybody watching, if you're wondering why this is important to you, this is taxpayers' money that Enterprise Ireland are investing in companies. And we're going to chat to Al about one specific case where there was an investment of almost $1,750,000 initially. We don't really know what's happened to that money, and that's what we're going to talk about, and that's why we're here. So, Oscar, what would you do next if, like, do you go to an ombudsman? Do you, like, if they don't get back to you, like, what do you have? What are your options if they keep pushing this or kicking this can down the road?
So basically, now that I've resent the emails, the 20-day clock started again yesterday, if that makes sense. So they've got 20 working days to respond. Either they can grant the request and provide the records, or they can refuse. If they can refuse, they have to say why they've refused, and then based off what they say, then I can resubmit and then do another FOI trying to get around their refusal. But it is the kind of thing where they can continuously just refuse and refuse again. I had it with Met Police in 2023. I was trying to get some results like urgently for like my master's project, and I ended up having to completely rejig the segment. I did eventually get the data, but it was just 4 months later. So this will be one of those things where you kind of just have to tweak the FOI each time, and I might end up having to ask them like month by month for the data, like as in a literal calendar month of like, okay, if I want to look at December 2015, tell me what happened there, and then January 2016 and going like that, because they can just avoid it for saying that like it's too much time.
Yeah, they're going to make it as difficult as possible for you. And I just want to say to Enterprise Ireland, if you're watching this, like Oscar, you're looking at this guy who's kicked off Mario Party. He wasn't allowed to play Mario Party on New Year's Eve. Now that's a whole different Oscar. When he's working with Moth, he's a Rottweiler. You know, you won't push him off this Mario Party, Enterprise Ireland. He will stay on you like a Jack Russell, like a Rottweiler. So just, you've been warned. Isn't that right, Oscar?
Yeah, 100%. I'm on this.
Excellent.
Well, the other air of caution here, Keith, would be
yes,
he did not let that go. The New Year's.
Yeah. I must say, I felt like
this guy
he holds a grudge.
I felt like a real adult when I was like, I sent them an email saying like, I want an internal review, and they were like, oh, we have to do an internal review now.
I'm going to write a strong letter.
Tell them about the Mario Party thing and how you outed your sister-in-law on your platform.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. This guy does not let things go.
If I do that to my sister-in-law, you can imagine what I'm going to do to you. And she's family.
I mean, yeah. Look, all
with friends like that, who needs enemies, right? Who needs enemies?
Al, listen. So let's talk about Senoptica. So Senoptica, we've spoken about before, are this company that have come up with this. Let's call a spade a spade. This shit hot tech that tells the packaging will tell you if the food is off. Absolutely amazing. You know, what a brilliant piece of kit or whatever. You know, you'd imagine something like this is going to fly around the world. Definitely going to make money. It's going to. You're talking about like environmental benefits. You're talking about like food waste benefits, all sorts of benefits. This is like excellent tech, and it's like the founders are Irish. This has been developed in Ireland. Enterprise Ireland have backed this startup. And now we find that something has gone wrong within Senoptica. And we've seen this before. So tell us a little bit about what's happened to this excellent piece of tech that was developed in Ireland and why we are where we are.
Yeah, and just a caveat to that, if you think Ireland, a lot of people would their default would be food, agriculture, export. So it's a very it's a fundamental point to make in terms of there's a credibility around an Irish company creating something in terms of a solution that solves for the agricultural industry and food industry when we're known for that.
Yeah.
So that's so I think, look, it's no small feat for a company to start, bootstrap, raise funding from Enterprise Ireland, as you mentioned, significant investment. Get through the process with taxpayers' money, right, to get to develop a product that's FDA approved, okay, and then be able to export that and get credibility in different jurisdictions, which is obviously validated by the fact that the very company that's coming into the examinership process with the help of the Irish investors is going to be the beneficiary of this Irish technology through an insolvency process. And here's where it gets really interesting, right? As we predicted, Tom Lyons in his glory as always in the currency, started his usual pathway of, planting seeds about the company and then leading up to the point that he just literally, ripped the legs off the founders by saying, oh, look, these guys are coming in to save you and hopefully you'll work for this new company that now think the company is good, even though when you went into examinership, they thought it was shit enough to push you into an insolvency process. But we'll give you your jobs back. We're going to wipe out your shareholding, and now you work for us. And maybe you'll do a better job this time, right? And this is what he's reporting. I mean, he's a sorry state of a journalist, to be honest. Like,
we have that here, actually. Yeah. Al, sorry, yeah. I don't want to interrupt you, but just on that, we can look at this piece I've taken from an article in the Currency, where you can see loan note holders and other creditors would be repaid most of their money under the terms of this deal, but all shareholders would be wiped out. Management would, however, be granted growth shares. This would give them an incentive to continue to build a company which has developed potentially groundbreaking technology. If we're saying all shareholders will be wiped out, are we the taxpayers a shareholder?
But exactly, but a shareholder, correct, and you know the money has been wiped out in the new process going forward. But what he's saying is materially incorrect, right?
Yeah.
The loan note holders are not being paid back; they're taking a coupon. They're rolling their debt forward. So essentially, they're giving the new investor or the new owner of the business a moratorium on their debt, because they're the guys that actually pushed it into examinership process. So the loan note holders are the ones that architected the examinership process using Graham Kenny and his team, his banded warriors, right, to come in and take the company. So like you can dress it up, candy coat it, call whatever you want, right? But ultimately, this is another example of Enterprise Ireland sitting back, not helping Irish founders. They're facilitating the transfer of an intellectual property from a company in Ireland into a Canadian company, right, for a nominal amount. I mean, at the end of the process, they're going to end up paying, you know, a fraction of what the company would have been valued at. Okay, there's no legal due process whatsoever. So literally, the examiner can do whatever he wants. The team can do whatever they want. The media are going to call the founders shit anyway, right? And they're going to say the company was shit. But then, why is somebody interested to buy it out of examinership process, right? And we're supposed to believe that the currency is writing articles and representing the public interest. So where's the public interest when the taxpayers' money is wiped out, the founders are shafted, the IP is moving to a Canadian company, which is out of jurisdiction, which means not only are we losing out on the initial capital injection, but also losing out in the ongoing opportunity that it's an Irish company that essentially is going to bring stimulus into the economy, which is the very essence and the fibre of what Enterprise Ireland are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be funding and supporting enterprise within Ireland. Enterprise Ireland, not Enterprise Export Ireland, right? Okay, so that, and then, you know, we can't even get full transparency from anybody in the process to say, okay, but how is it that a process can start to say that the company is shit, push it into insolvency, put it into an examinership process? It's a pre-backed examinership process, it's pre-packed, because there is no outcome for the founders that they can be successful, because every time they try to put in a bid, these guys will just up the game because they're converting their debt into the bids, right? So they're turning around to the new guys saying, we think you're okay, these guys are shit. We're not going to put you under pressure for our money to be paid back, you know, ASAP. But if Brendan and Stephen, the two founders, are successful, we're going to call in our loans. That's it.
I mean, it just, how are they getting away? I mean, we've said this before, like, how are they getting away with this? You can only get away with this if you have like,
because
so many people in like on board. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let me explain, because this goes back to a point where, you know, remember I asked an agent, an AI agent, about Irish legal system, and it says it is weighted towards people that have the finance to get legal representation earned, because the founders are in a position where they're in, you know, they've obviously, the company was in financial difficulty, but you could draw a conclusion that, you know, they haven't been able to draw down their correct salaries, they haven't been paid properly, they've probably been bootstrapping to support the business, so their resources are limited, if not, you know, been exhausted by this process. So that everybody around the table knows that they can't just throw another couple of $100K to bring down this process by going into legal battle. So it's been leveraged to prevent anybody calling this a shit show, because for them to call it a shit show and get any kind of recourse, they're going to have to pay legal fees, they're going to have to pay a barrister, they're going to have to they're going to have to submit to the court to go to either appeal or high court to get this overturned. So they're already the other side of the table. Bools, Graham Kenny, and Fortress are saying to themselves, "Yeah, but we've got money, so like they're not going to be able to stop us. So let's just do whatever the fuck we want."
And also, would I be right in saying Boole and Fortress do have an Enterprise Ireland have a connection as well? So they're kind of like palsy walsy with Enterprise Ireland. Would that be fair to say?
Well, they're only on a media coverage just before the holidays with the
There was a photo up, wasn't it? There was a picture.
yeah, Access BIC, which is funded and supported by Enterprise Ireland. So they're seen as like an Enterprise Ireland supported fund. And look, I believe they're in receipt of support as well, right?
Yeah, so basically they were kind of they did this, like, it was a kind of a PR stunt, I suppose, by Enterprise Ireland, saying we're looking for, we've got some money to give away. We're looking, I don't know, it was an awards thing or something. Boole Fortress were involved. Enterprise Ireland were going, yeah, these are our guys. They're gonna, send in your brilliant ideas, and we'll see if we can give you a few quid or whatever. So they're very much in bed together. Oscar, as a reporter, sort of, I mean, you haven't really been like you've come in late last year. You're involved in the FOI from Enterprise Ireland. I mean, you must be looking at this just almost like as a bystander. Just if you're an Irish person paying tax, you'd be a bit worried. I mean, maybe you might have a journalistic slant on this, like, because it seems like, but a big problem for us is, like, this guy Tom Lyons is a journalist. He's reporting on this. Like, how is he not seeing what's actually going on? How is he just fucking writing? Like, it's a drama. They've constructed this thing. They've got people, they've got characters. I talked about, like, binging on The Bear. This is scripted shit. You know what I mean? This is a playbook. This has been done before. It'll be done again. I mean, what's your viewpoint, Oscar, at this point?
So for me, it boils down to, like, at the end of the day, what do you think a journalist represents? For me, a journalist represents somebody to hit the fourth wall and hold like public bodies, governments, etc., to account. And if you are continuously following the same pattern, and you're seeing the same pattern of a company coming up, being public funded, and then being exported over to the States, to Canada, etc., I think at some point, logically, like, once is like, okay, whatever, twice is a coincidence, 3 times, okay, there's a pattern here, and I'm confused as to why this guy has not recognized the pattern. I appreciate he may have a lot more experience than I do, but you have to wonder, like, why he keeps following the state line. Maybe it's better for, like, the public mind or something, but if you have continuously companies which would be generating income to the public, I don't understand why they're constantly exported.
Yeah, I mean, like, it would make. So I'm looking at this going, is there something? Is there like a? Is it just known that Ireland? So this is how it works. Ireland are brilliant at coming up with tech, right? Al, you've been there, you've done it. You've been on the wrong side of this whole operation. There's certain people who have deep pockets. Certainly, if you're working with Enterprise Ireland, if have you access to funding from Enterprise Ireland? Anyway, that's a whole other question, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. But if you have deep pockets, are you aware that Ireland as a country, not only is it brilliant at coming up with this tech, this IP, but also the laws protecting founders of brilliant tech in Ireland is fucking shit. We can literally come in, invest in the company. Enterprise Ireland don't really seem to mind what we do. They'll also, we'll come in, they'll put up a bit of money, we'll match that money. We come in, we'll actually be able to write that money off as a tax thing. So we come in, and then from within, using journalists to badmouth the company, put out some bad PR. It looked like, just shake the foundations of the company a little bit, scare investors off. Then we're quids in. The money that we were supposed to invest in, that we didn't invest in because we didn't want to, we didn't believe in the company anymore, we'll actually be able to use that money then to buy the tech and then sell it to some dude in Canada for millions. And then we actually don't have to give the shareholders anything, including the taxpayers who have invested 750,000 of taxpayers' money in this company. And they're like, how many times have the taxpayers been wiped out, i.e. the tax, like us?
So Keith, let's take if we take the pessimistic view, the benign view, and the sinister view, right? And look at it benign needs. So when you're in a situation where you're dealing with 50K guys, right? Okay, 50K investor or 100K, okay, and you say to them, look, 12 of them, let's pool together. We'll put in 5, 10, 15K each. We put into this startup. but listen, look, we'll find a way to get you guys a return within a year or 2 years. You don't really have to wait to see if the business performs or not. We just want to fund the value proposition of the company to get, like in this example, FDA approval, get the technology road tested, get somebody interested to say, yeah, I really like this tech, right? Because the hard grunt is getting it started. Once the plate is spinning, it's easier to keep it spinning, right? Okay. So, they're de-risking themselves by saying, look, we'll put it through a process. And then you've got this gray area of insolvency in Ireland, which is there you can do literally whatever the fuck you want as a shareholder, right? Without any recourse. If it was in any other jurisdiction, there's bad actor behavior, right? Which is like, you have to sign back your shares, or you can sue the shareholders. If it's kind of like inside trading, right? Okay. So if you're given information, so these guys are sitting there as a shareholder, right? They've put in a director on the board and to represent them. So which means they've got all the financial data, have all the commercial data, they have all the commercial sensitive data. They're able to leak the IP because there's no recourse, right? Okay. The founders don't have the money to pursue them for breach of fiduciary duty. So this is the benign view, right? Now take the pessimistic view. The people that are entering into the negotiation to get involved with the business as both a shareholder, investor, and client know that at some stage, if it's not going their way, if they can't control the founders, they can use the insolvency process by signing up with the likes of Graham Kenny to get them involved in the process that they push it into insolvency to get an outcome that wipes out the other shareholders and gets rid of everybody that's a pain in their ass. In other words, the ethical people, right? Okay. But here's where it gets really fucked up. Not only do they know that, they also know that most of the Irish media outlets are editorials, not editorials. So they'll say and they'll do whatever the fuck you tell them to do. So if you tell them, I need you to write a series of articles to make the founders look shit, they'll do it, right? Okay. And equally, I need you to spin a story that makes me look a bit, I'm coming in to save these guys. And people just eat this shit up, right? Now, let's look at the sinister side of it, right?
Was that
And
not
this
the
is where,
sinister side?
no, that was the pessimistic view, because it's like, if they're using the process, it's, okay, now let's get into the fraudulent behavior of corporate raiding, which is what was our experience. Now, who are the commercial beneficiaries of this process? Who makes money from this process? That's, in essence, it's moving the money from funding, state funding, taxpayers' money into a company, develop the technology, it's out the other side. Who's making money? Legal representatives, barristers, auditors, the examiner, the liquidator, the receiver, the shareholder that's the recipient of the technology. The actual people that put in the money in the first place, not only they're going to get their money back, they're financing the process, so they're financing all of this, and they're going to get a return on their money. So in the sinister side of it, we're getting founders to put their lives on the line to start a business. Stress, grief, anxiety, dealing with problems, not paying themselves properly. It gets in everywhere, right? He's like, these guys that are in question are family men, right? Like these guys have kids, they're, they have families behind them that are reliant on them, right? So there's a generational impact here as well, guys, right? But not only that, what does it do to the community? It fucks the entire economy in terms of, like, why would you want to enter into a situation as a founder in a country where if you fail, you get blown off the map by the media, you get shafted, you get fucking finger pointing, and, you're tagged then as somebody that failed forevermore in a country that essentially pulls down their own, right? You go to anywhere else, slap on the back, well done for trying. Like, these guys generated employment. They created opportunity. They're innovators. They're entrepreneurs. And what do they know? Failed business people they're not even deserving of any fucking credibility or any sort of kudos from any of the media guys whatsoever to say, but at least they tried.
Yeah. Oscar, just very briefly on the these articles that appear like articles, but are actually kind of like, they're more like I know from working in PR and marketing, you send in your press release. A lot of the time, the journalists just copy and paste what you've, it's the opening of a nightclub, or, Johnny's car sales has got an offer, and you just, but you're sometimes you can get that above the, sometimes it's above the line, you got to pay some money for it. Sometimes it's below the line if you can make it interesting enough that they can fashion an article out of it. Like, Johnny car sales is selling a car, but he's got like 6 naked lads, doing the marathon just before the car, so whatever, and that might be an interesting scoop on it. This to me looks like, I don't know what you've done on this, and maybe in college or whatever, but like if somebody sends you in a press release basically saying, "Oh, look at this business, Senoptica, it's brilliant. We've got 2 bids on the table. They're coming in to save this company." No mention of the founders, the stress, the hardship, the way they've been shafted. It's just literally copy and paste this press release for us, would you please, and talk about how brilliant we are and how brilliant Enterprise Ireland. As a journalist, would you be interested in getting involved in that kind of work?
Doing press releases, no. And then, like, straight out of uni, I even went the other way. I said I want to focus more on journalism that actually affects people. So where you're like actually representing people and feelings throughout that company. Because as Al's just mentioned, for me, the story should be on what's happening to the Senoptica founders. How are they handling everything that's going on? Where's the money gone? Not, there's these 2 big investment firms coming out of nowhere. And I was just doing some background research on the currency itself, and interestingly, it's privately owned, so there's no way to do an FYI on Tom Lyons or any of the other journalists involved. But because they are like privately owned company, they're just doing their own thing, and nobody can hold them to account, really, which is really fun.
Oscar, just look at their, if you want to jump in on this, and we might do a piece in this next week, Keith, right? If it's allowing, have a look at who does ads with them, right? So their revenue stream, which is ads, you'll see it's Elkstones and others. Okay, look at their sponsorship, and also look at the cross-pollination with the other media outlets, which is you're going to find it really interesting to see who's actually freelancing as a journalist with them from the Business Post.
Is it just the same for all people?
Yeah.
But this is a thing. I worked on national radio, I worked in marketing, I worked in small radio stations where, you get a guy coming in from the coffee shop, and he's like, "Oh, you wouldn't mention me on the radio." And if someone came to me as a program director, said you wouldn't give us a mention, I immediately have to send this guy to sales, because what sales are going to say is like, "Yeah, we'll give you a mention on the radio. Will you take out some ads with us? And like, we'll give you a good deal. Like, we'll give you, 30 ads a month for $1,000 or whatever. And, we blah, blah, blah." But we're not just going to give away mentions. Like, we're not going to just, like, it's, the thing is, like, they're writing these fluff pieces, these, making these guys look great. But as Al says, are they also, spending money with the publication? Like, that's wrong. I mean, that's not sure. That's not a proper, that's like your local, that's a local magazine. You're in the chipper and you're waiting for your Chinese or whatever, and you pick up this thing and it's all ads, and then every now and then there's an article about Mary who knit a jumper that was too big for her son. You know what I mean? But it's all like, it's £100 an ad, and it's basically it's an ad magazine. But that's kind of, is that what the currency are? Is that what the Sunday Business Post have become? Just kind of some kind of like everything's up for grabs. Everything. I mean, you got to survive, I suppose.
I mean, it's a parasitical social media economy, so you just go over like what gets the most clicks. And if you have to spend 5 minutes slightly rewording a press release as opposed to like an hour or 2 hours, several days, investigating like why a company's actually collapsed, which
but that's their business model is to just, if you take out ads with us, we'll print these basically articles that you've written yourself, save us a lot of hassle. We're bringing revenue in. Everyone's a winner, but it's not actually news. The thing is, we're looking at these things, and the public don't realize. And you used to see it in newspapers where, like, if it was an ad, it was like, teeth whitening. It's an article going, "Johnny has the whitest teeth in Ireland," but clearly they have to put a border around and say like advertisement, you know. But it can appear like an article. It can be written like an article. A picture of Johnny with his the brightest teeth in Ireland, but it's an ad for teeth whitening. Do you know what I mean? That it's blurred when it's an online platform, when it's a website. You know, Sunday Business Post seem to do it in a way that like, oh no, this is more like we're a business newspaper, so this is our celebrity news. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying completely, but I think you also need to say allegedly just in case.
Allegedly.
Yeah, there we go.
You think they might come for me?
I don't know, man.
They'd have to prove that they're not doing what I'm saying they're doing.
I think the burden of proof is on them, but we will say allegedly, Oscar. Thank you for
allegedly. Thank you, and that's why you're here, Oscar. That's why you're here, because I haven't got a clue. So where are we now, Al? What's happening with Senoptica? Like, is that it? Are the founders blown out of the waters? Like, and I want to bring this back to the human story, because like it's 750 grand of taxpayers' money gambled and gone. And if you look at the article, it says all shareholders are wiped out. That includes us, the taxpayers, right? So, you know, for me as a taxpayer, I'm like, go fuck yourself. You know, just wiping my money out without like, and Enterprise Ireland are going, oh, we actually don't know what happens after we give them the money. We just give them money and then we don't know what happens. So like, fuck you guys. That's our money and that's important. And apparently Ireland is struggling. You know, the economy is struggling at the moment. So we need every penny. And then you're talking about like people like the founders, you know.
Well,
they're family men. They're stressed. They've got relationships.
Not only that. I mean, answer the question as a patriot, right? Which we have to be patriotic as it's our country. There's no outcome here that benefits Ireland. There is an outcome that benefits a chosen few that are in it, that happen to be Irish investors, but ultimately this is another loss for Ireland. Another company gone, founders gone, and even if you look at our own, tying back to our own story, in terms of Altada, growing a technology company in Ireland, and everybody's throwing the stones at the founders, then it's gone. That's in another jurisdiction. That technology is still moving on successfully, and it's all yesterday's news. But in reality, it's a loss for Ireland, and we're celebrating it. The Irish, our own Irish people, are helping this happen. They're facilitating it, and we're celebrating when founders are taken down, and we don't have the intelligence or the intellectual fucking intelligence or the emotional intelligence to understand that this isn't a win.
Yeah, and it's like people like Tom Lyons is essentially shafting,
feeding off it. He's feeding off it. The fucking hyena, vulture.
Hope he can sleep at night. So we'll come back to this, Oscar, if you get an update. I know we have to wait 20 days at least. Anyway, Al, anything more you want to say on this before we move on?
Just dovetailing it to, I'm not surprised people are calling Trump to come and save Ireland, right? Have you seen that in some of the social media? They're saying, come and help us.
We saw Paul, his name escapes me, a former restaurant owner down in Kerry on social media over Christmas said that he wants Musk and Trump to come and basically save Ireland, like take the leaders out of, whatever, like he's done in Venezuela. I mean, it's interesting because we had the Gripped, this kind of right-wing publication saying almost like you would imagine they'd be like pro-Trump and pro what's happening in Venezuela, but actually they're having a little pop at Paul Trevo is his name for saying, can Trump and Musk come and save us? And he's going, well, no, we need to save ourselves. I don't know what, like there's a bit of infighting in amongst, it's almost like two Trump supporters fighting each other, but it's semantics. Do you know what I mean? What give us a very brief breakdown, Oscar, as to what happened in Venezuela. What's Trump been accused of doing, and why is it a bit, some people saying it's a bit dodgy, some people saying, well, actually you saved the people of Venezuela from a really shit life,
So, America started the new year with a bang in Venezuela with direct military action that has shocked the international system and reopened some of the biggest questions in global politics. So essentially what happened was at like 3 a.m. on the 3rd, Operation Glorious, something like Glorious Freedom or something, they sent over like Delta Force, several attack choppers as well. They went in and kidnapped sitting President Maduro There was some kind of escalation to this, though. It didn't happen overnight. So for months before this operation, the United States has been escalating pressure against Venezuela, saying that they are like countering anti-trafficking rings and anti-narcotic rings. The question here itself is, though, at what point can Trump just go and say, look, I'm taking military action and having a military strike without actually having any congressional approval? And if you're looking at Congress now, I really love following American stories because I'll get updates at like 5 a.m. Congress is actually trying to vote to restrict Trump's power into how much he can control Venezuela. And when we dovetail that out, like we need to kind of ask ourselves, at what point does a campaign that starts as a counter-narcotics enforcement turn into coercive military pressure on a state? Because the entire time, the US military was increasing strikes. They were sending drones to attack boats accused of carrying narcotics and then doing like second strikes, i.e., so they would disable the boat, and now that boat can't go anywhere. Technically, you'd need to go and like save those people, not like then just shoot them again. So they're being accused of extrajudicial killings as well. And if you're kind of looking at this and wondering what's going on and why is everybody all coming after Venezuela again, it's because if we look at where Venezuela is, it's really close to the US. And then alongside that, most of it has one of the largest oil reserves in the world. It's got more than Saudi Arabia, more than Canada, more than Iran. And most of that oil sits in the Orinoco Belt. It's heavy crude that is difficult to extract, but strategically valuable when global energy markets are tight. And most of the US oil refineries are kind of geared towards refining that kind of oil. And throughout Maduro's time as president, the relations broke down over and over again to the point where they weren't exporting. So some people are kind of going like, oh, the US is just invading for oil. And other people are saying the US is invading to try and like remove a sitting dictator. Like you can kind of draw comparisons to Saddam Hussein, trying to get him out.
Pinochet, maybe.
Pinochet, yeah, that kind of idea. But it's, for me, and I'll open this question to you guys, can you think of a time where US military enforcement has gone in, removed a sitting president, i.e. Saddam Hussein, i.e. Pinochet, whoever, and then that country has prospered afterwards?
Nothing springs to mind. The only thing is that, so on one hand, you've got people saying he's gone in there for the oil. Other people are saying, well, the US has plenty of oil. And then, well, the argument is, well, this is a darker oil. This is a crude oil. This is the oil they need to run their oil refinery. So to get the oil, it's basically diesel versus gas. The US have the gas. They don't really have the diesel. But this guy has run the country kind of like Pinochet back in the day. He's run the country into the ground. It's himself and his cronies kind of like benefiting financially while people are being disappeared. People are, going missing off the streets. People are being locked up. People are, imprisoned. And he, he doesn't like, there was an election that he sort of said, don't worry about that election. I'm going to stay on as president. So like he's definitely not doing a good job. And I did see, and I'm not a Trump supporter at all. And but I can see people who are not Trump supporters going, oh, it's a tough one because like we try. How often do you keep going trying to do things? Like he's totally trumped it, right? But nothing anybody else was doing was working. And maybe if he's unlocked some oil, for everybody needs oil. Every country in the world is looking for oil. We all have cars to run. Maybe that's why people aren't really giving out that much. They're a bit like, yeah, well, it looks a bit messy and it's a bit fucking crazy and it's a bit Trumpy, but like it worked,
Oscar, I think your question, which is an open question and a very good question. However, the response to it it's not apples for apples. When you're asked the question, is there any other, can we draw from any other experience? I think the difference here is in any of the other operations, they would have been met with very much, a vigor of military response. So it would have been, launched an assault. There would have been an army or a militia that would have defended and fought back vigorously. I think this, in this instance, even though there is mixed feelings on how it was undertaken, I think the general I'm generalizing, but the consensus is that the people are relieved. They're probably not very relieved in terms of what might happen next, but that's more they don't know where they stand versus I haven't heard too many people, and I do know quite a few people in that area, right? I haven't heard anybody yet come out and say, we really want this guy to be reinstated, right? And I think it's more a kidnapping. So he was removed, whereas previously it would have been, a military operation. There's an ongoing assault. The guy was killed. Guy was removed. There's a proxy leader has been placed in there. And now I think the only concern that I've heard, and look, I'm open to correction in this, is that they're worried about what's happening with the oil, as opposed to anybody categorically saying, hey, this guy was a really good human and a great leader and he shouldn't have been removed. And then the other part that I would say is, and this is, look, I'm using data here to balance my argument, right? If he was that well liked and that well protected, I doubt it would have been that easy to remove him and get him out of the country. I mean, I think it's one of the quickest operations in the history of any state, right? Which is like, I think it's hours, even minutes, where he was removed. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that the guys that conducted the operation were, very, very capable and very efficient. But I think it speaks to he wasn't a very liked and protected leader, right? So I think that would be my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. He was like a dictator to all extent and circumstances, and yeah, it was an amazing operation by Delta Force there. But also, like, we kind of it's a great operation. We don't want the guy back, but there's the larger thing as well, as when we kind of look back, what happened? What does that mean for the rest of the world? Because now the US has kind of set precedent that if you have a person in power who is perceived to be a dictator, you can go in and you can just remove them.
No one's saying Micheál Martin is a dictator, Oscar. Come on.
Yeah. So
we haven't said Simon. We're not saying that these guys are dictators. That's not why Paul Trevor's asking for Trump to come in and remove them. They're just a bit shit.
100%. Yeah, like the guy is a terrible person, Maduro. But when my question to you there is going to be kind of like, when you're looking at a country like, let's say, another country that the US wants to get involved in, at the moment, everybody is saying Greenland. They are saying they want Greenland for its security potential, but at the same time, they are kind of decreasing their military presence in Greenland. They can have an infinite amount of troops there. They can have an infinite amount of aircraft there, but they're saying they have to have Greenland for national security at the same time as they're de-escalating their presence elsewhere in Europe, such as Ukraine. So if you're looking at Greenland, what do you think, in your guys' view, what do you think would happen next? Because we've already set a precedent that if Trump wants to do something, he can do so without congressional approval.
I don't know if that. I don't really know why the Greenland thing has been mentioned with the Venezuela thing. I think it's just Trump going, yeah, and I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this because he just puts it like he is brilliant at fucking PR and marketing. He says shit that people report on, and like he's forgotten about it. Like by the time he sat down on the airplane, do you know what I mean? Like the Greenland thing is different, right? Because Greenland, the Greenlanders are going, well, Denmark are in charge of us now, but what? So then America are going to take over. Like Denmark have been pretty shit to the people of Greenland as it is. Like if you look at women of a certain age being sterilized, is that the right word? But basically, a certain amount of the female population of Greenland were unable to have children, and it was a thing that the Danish government did to the women of Greenland. Like they've been shat on already by the Danish. So for me, I'm going, well, are the Americans going to come in? Maybe they'll treat them better, but like, do the people of Greenland have a say? Are we asking them? There was a poll. There's only 60,000 of them, so it's easy to find out. You could just probably ring them all in a day. And they're all saying, look, we don't necessarily want America, we want independence, but we don't want America. We don't mind America being there. We don't mind, and they can have the security of America protecting them without actually running the country, but they don't necessarily they want independence. The difference between Greenland and Venezuela is Venezuela goes, can somebody come and fucking help us? Do you see the difference?
I do see the difference. Yeah, I think that's just important that we extrapolate that difference as much.
Yeah,
as
yeah. No, I mean, like in an ideal world, the people of Venezuela would have a nice president. They'd be enjoying what was up until about 20, 30 years ago, a beautiful, beautiful country. Greenland, so much resources, so many whatever, but like they've been colonized by Denmark. Like they're like Ireland, kind of, and the Brits. Like Denmark and Greenland are like, how the Greenlanders view Denmark, like we view the Brits. The colonizers, fucked us up, whatever, did terrible things to us. It's a very similar scenario. So can America help them? Well, that'd be nice if they could improve their lives in some way. Can they get like some sort of justice from what the Danish government have done to them down through the years? That'd be great as well. My argument. Sorry, I'll finish up now because I'm very good when it comes to talking. But my thing is, I do think there's a bigger picture thing here, right? And I do think when dictators are allowed to be dictators, like you look at North Korea, you look at like people are just dictating away there, but it gets to a point where you fuck somebody off, right? And I think, and this is just me just talking out loud, I think a lot of the time America are the fall guys, they're the bad guys, but the rest of the world are quite happy to let them do it. And then kind of be a bit tutty about it. Like, yeah, that's not ideal. Trump's a bit mad, but actually it saved everybody a lot of hassle and it freed up maybe some oil or solved a problem. So he might have overstepped the mark, and then everyone went, yeah, Trump, go for it, and we'll say nothing.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see over the next couple of days, weeks, months, years, is how this US oversight over Venezuela evolves. Like, is it going to completely transform the country? Is it going to help their migration problem because they've got a massive one of those? Are the refineries going to get back up? Is the quality of life going to improve? These are the kind of questions that we need to be focusing on moving forward. Yeah. Like, if in a couple of weeks, people are like, the country is completely a lot better now. We don't have a dictator. We've got a sustainable government, and everything can work again. Then hats off to Trump. Like, 100% well done. But we just kind of have to wait and see as to what happens next. Al, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just I think again, 3 kind of data points, maybe 4. I'm yet to see anybody coming out resoundingly opposed to the US discussions around Greenland, excluding people that are in a very certain position, which is, I think there was an artist, an actor, somebody that's, has been heavily involved in the Danish oversight, Keith, as you mentioned. So I haven't seen anybody like resoundingly pushing back. That's not to say that they're not. I agree with Keith's point. They're not apples for apples. I think it's more, for me, a demonstration of the global issues that we have today, which is there's a general instability in a lot of different locations at the moment. That is definitely disquieting and disconcerting, right? I think that's more the topic of discussion than a specific place. It's kind of, there seems to be in 4 corners, there's instability in each location where there's ambiguity around the sovereignty of certain locations, what's going to happen next, who's the first one to make the move. There's a bit of chatter in Europe, there's a bit of chatter in the UK and stuff. Like if you were to read all of this stuff on social media at the moment, I'd definitely be running under the table and getting everybody into a bunker, right? So I think that's the alarming point. And the fine point, Venezuela, I think it's going to be an improvement, in my humble opinion, but let's see.
Yeah,
sorry, Oscar. I just want to put one more thing to you. That whole if we look at Cuba, right, and the problem with Cuba was if they aligned with Russia, which they did, and they became a communist country, and they were so close. So basically, you've got Russia going, we would love to have a base right beside America. Venezuela, you've got China moving in, you've got Russia looking, to get involved and having conversations with the president there. So America basically also, we look at the oil thing, but also the defense thing. They're going, we can't have China, we can't have Russia, we can't have these countries sitting on our doorstep. Like, I mean, that seems to be a big, Greenland, the same thing. You know what I mean? We need to make sure, we need to secure Greenland. If, are we gonna stop Russian subs, coming across to Alaska or being in our in this area. We, like, America don't want them there, but there's nobody, like the Danish don't seem, the Greenlanders don't have the capabilities, so that's it seems to be security. We don't want these countries basically camped on our doorstep. If Russia's in Russia and China's in China, it's a bit too far for them to fire a nuclear weapon. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I just want to raise this point again. So Greenland is under the sovereignty of Denmark. Denmark is a NATO country.
Yeah.
America is a NATO country. America can put as many different troops, subs, bases, whatever, within Greenland, all under, and increase their security. And at no point does that state does Greenland need to belong to the United States of America. It can stay under Danish sovereignty. So what everybody is worried about is if America just says, okay, no, we're annexing Greenland, that then will effectively mean the largest partner of NATO, which everybody relies on. Like, everybody in NATO relies on America, from jets to satellite imagery to everything. Like, you need America's help. So that will, like, strain the alliance, is what's coming out of different press members.
So well, it takes a partner, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
NATO was, and we can see America leaving a lot of these UN organizations. Like they're like, I think they announced that they were removing themselves from something like 200 of these international UN backed sort of charities, NGOs, I suppose, for want of a better word. So they do seem to be kind of removing themselves from this type of international organizations. So is that worrying?
I mean, it's not worrying because the entire, it's like since 26. Oh, there you go. We lost Al, but Al has come back.
We'll try and get him back. Yeah, there he is.
There
Is it worrying? Is it worrying that they seem to be like they don't seem to be? If they pull out of NATO, that's NATO gone.
Effectively, yes, but at the same time, like, since Trump got in 2016, it's been America first. So I don't think that it's anything new. I doubt they'll. In my view, I don't see why they would fully leave NATO. But if it's up to them, it's up to them. The one thing that I found kind of worrying is that if you're looking at Al Jazeera, the headline that came out overnight, it was so updates international law. Trump says he doesn't need international law after Maduro abduction. So if that's one of the largest powers in the world saying, I don't care about international law, what's to stop other countries saying, I don't need international law either? We can see, we can wait what happens. And yeah, it's kind of like, it's a good move by the US to remove Maduro, but the issue here is you're setting precedent. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter. I don't like the guy, but like, there's always countries. You could look at any country, any of the major superpowers. They're always flaunting international law. Like, they've all done it. They've all been guilty. It's going to be very hard for people in these glass houses to throw stones in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you can see there's pushback. You know, people need to stop calling the US to shit. They've been saying it for years. So like, back to your point, Oscar, there's a codependency in the US, but then they keep calling the US shit. So it's like, of course, somebody at some stage is going to say, I'm fucking sick of you guys. No matter what we do, we're shit. So we're looking after ourselves now. And that's it. So like, that's an element of this as well. It's like, I think there's so many issues with different leaders in different locations. Like, I've said this many times. I think we're in the era of probably the single worst political representation in Europe that we've had since it started. Like, you know, like, I think Europe is just an absolute fucking shit show. And, you know, that's my viewpoint on it. And so I can see why the US and Trump are saying, I'm fucking sick of this. Like, you know, so it's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's the type of thing. I mean, like if you look at George W. Bush getting up at the podium and going, "We got him," you know. So we're looking at him, you know, finding Saddam or
Maduro.
No, the other guy.
Bin Laden.
Bin Laden down a foxhole. They got him, whatever, and then or was Saddam Hussein? It was one of them. Basically,
it was Saddam Hussein, and Obama was Bin Laden.
Obama has said he found out that they'd gotten. So basically, are we more in favor of a Bush, you know, we got him, of Saddam on Saddam Hussein, or are we more in favor of Trump going in with a few helicopters, kidnapping the guy, probably, with his own government kind of going, yeah, go on, just come in and get him, and we'll say nothing. Like it seems a lot cleaner, right? Maybe that's not even part of the.
I mean, I guess it's comparable, but we shall see.
Let's talk about this more. Okay, Oscar, thank you very much. Good show, and we'll talk during the week.
Happy 2026, guys. Well done. Happy New Year.
Good luck.
Happy New Year, everybody.
You guys can jump out, and I'll say goodbye to the viewers. Take it easy. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you want to get in touch, we are on all the social medias. You can find us on X at Moth News. You can find us on Instagram at Monopoly of Truth, and on YouTube at Moth_News. Do get in touch if you've got any stories you want us to cover. You can watch back some of the stories we've covered in 2025 on our YouTube account, including stories of how we treat our most vulnerable and weakest and oldest and youngest in our care systems, our hospitals, and our homes that are supposed to be there to mind the most vulnerable and the weakest in society. How we treat them. You can look at some of those. Things haven't changed in Ireland. Look at some of those interviews on our YouTube. Just go to at Moth News, Moth_News, all caps. And do get in touch. You can get in touch through X, whatever you're watching us on now. You can send us a message through that platform, and we will get it and get back to you. We want to hear from you. All right. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and take care. Be kind to each other. Be kind to each other. Choose love, man. Good luck.